It's November 24th, 2014. A quiet morning settles over Sony Pictures Entertainment in Los Angeles. Employees are getting comfortable, coffees in hand, prepared for what seems like a standard workday. Then, without warning, their computer screens begin to flicker. A red skeleton figure materializes against a black backdrop, bearing the phrase, "Hacked by GGOP." It flashes onto monitors everywhere. An ominous warning follows. "We've already warned you, and this is only the start. We've obtained all your internal data. If you don't obey us, we'll release it to the world." Within moments, chaos takes over. The IT department is flooded with ringing phones as files suddenly become inaccessible and systems start shutting down. One Sony executive is frozen, staring at her screen, watching that menacing skull fill her display. Her inbox refuses to open. Confidential documents have disappeared. A terrified employee shouts out, "I can't log in."
Everything's just gone.
This isn't a scene from a movie. It's a genuine cyber assault, and Sony Pictures is under siege. Over the following hours, technicians realize that nearly 3/4 of the company's servers and computers have been either destroyed or rendered completely useless. Payroll systems, email, financial records, all erased or locked away behind impenetrable encryption. The attackers refer to themselves as the Guardians of Peace. But investigators will eventually trace this incident back to a source few could have predicted. The Sony hack becomes one of history's most destructive corporate cyber attacks, and its effects extend far beyond Hollywood. Thousands of confidential files are leaked by the hackers, from unreleased films to private email correspondence. They even go so far as to threaten violence against theaters unless Sony cancels. The Interview, a comedy that pokes fun at North Korea's leader. Under immense pressure, Sony decides to pull the film from major theaters. It's a chilling milestone. Cyber terrorism successfully curbing free expression. Within weeks, U.S. intelligence officials publicly point the finger at North Korea, accusing them of masterminding the attack. It's an unprecedented event, a cyber strike forcing a global standoff. Yet for those who keep a close watch on North Korea, this wasn't entirely shocking. The secretive cyber force of the Hermit Kingdom, often referred to as the Lazarus Group or APT3A, had been operating long before Sony's systems went dark, working from the shadows. This elite unit has breached banks, made off with hundreds of millions of dollars, and sound disorder worldwide. Their operations span espionage, financial crime, and outright digital destruction. North Korea, isolated and impoverished, has quietly transformed into an unexpected cyber superpower. How did that happen? Decades ago, even as its citizens dealt with chronic blackouts and minimal internet access, North Korea started channeling significant resources into cyber warfare. In the late 1990s, Pyongyang's Military Intelligence Division, the Reconnaissance General Bureau, formed specialized hacking units. One of them, Bureau 121, became the hub for the nation's most skilled computer experts. These aren't underground activists. They're carefully selected, rigorously trained officers who hold a privileged place in North Korean society. Identified for their abilities as teenagers, they attend elite institutions like the University of Automation in Pyongyang, spending 5 years mastering the art of infiltrating computer systems. Those who stand out are recruited into Bureau 121 and become part of a pampered elite. In a country where hardship is common, these cyber warriors, along with their families, are given luxury apartments, cash bonuses, and praise from the regime. For North Korea's leadership, cyber warfare is the ideal weapon. As one defector described it, the strongest weapon is cyber. In North Korea, it's called the secret war. With a compact team of hackers operating at a genius level, Pyongyang can target wealthy nations in cyberspace without ever firing a shot. By the mid-2000s, The regime began sending many of these operatives abroad to extend their reach. Intelligence reports indicate that North Korean hacker teams quietly relocated to places like China, working out of cities such as Shenyang under seemingly ordinary covers. Operating overseas gave them faster internet connections and an extra layer of deniability. By 2009, this cyber army started making its presence known. South Korea's government and media networks experienced wave after wave of attacks. Websites were defaced, data was wiped, and citywide outages occurred. One early operation, dubbed Operation Troy 2009-2012, deployed malware to spy on South Korean military networks. Security researchers started recognizing a pattern. A single entity appeared responsible for a series of major hacks and cyber heists. They gave it a name: Lazarus Group. This organization, now thought to be an umbrella for North Korea's hacking efforts, gained notoriety after a dramatic escalation in 2013. That year, on a single dark day in March, the networks of several South Korean banks and TV broadcasters went down without warning. ATMs froze. News broadcasts fell silent. This attack, later called Dark Seoul, took out tens of thousands of computers. South Korean officials linked the breach to the North's cyber units, demonstrating Pyongyang's ability to paralyze a modern economy at will. Then came November 2014 and the Sony Pictures hack, which pushed Lazarus Group onto the international stage. This operation merged espionage with intimidation. The hackers didn't just steal information. They tried to blackmail a major Hollywood studio into halting a film's release. It was an astonishing display of cyber power used for political aims, hacking as a form of state-backed extortion. The sheer audacity of the Sony attack alarmed governments and security experts around the world. It became clear that North Korea's hackers weren't merely thieves or spies. They were willing to cause extensive damage to advance Pyongyang's goals. In the aftermath, Western agencies hurried to respond. New sanctions were placed on North Korean organizations, and the FBI started an exhaustive investigation. Analysts combed through lines of malicious code and server logs, even noting that the malware had similarities to earlier North Korean attacks. Within weeks, the United States formally blamed Pyongyang, with the FBI pointing to evidence like hacking tools and IP addresses connected to North Korea. But even as Sony worked to recover, the hackers of Lazarus had already shifted focus to their next objective. One motivated not by political vengeance, but by pure financial gain. February 2016. Dhaka, Bangladesh. The headquarters of Bangladesh Bank, the country's central bank, is calm on a Friday evening. Most employees have left for the weekend. Yet deep inside the bank's network, unnoticed, intruders are busy at work. For weeks, hackers have been hiding in the bank's computer systems, observing and preparing. Now, they set their plan in motion. At the New York Federal Reserve, where Bangladesh Bank maintains an account, a stream of urgent payment requests comes in through the secure Stubbers IFT network. These messages, carrying valid Bangladesh bank codes, direct the Fed to transfer nearly $1 billion from Bangladesh's reserves to accounts in the Philippines, Sri Lanka, and elsewhere. If successful, it would rank as one of the largest bank thefts ever, all carried out through digital deception. Back in Dhaka, a single printer, normally used to automatically log CBUFT transactions, suddenly stops working. Bank staff won't realize until Monday that the printer's failure wasn't a coincidence, but a hacker tactic meant to delay detection. By the time anyone figures it out, millions will have been drained over the weekend. The hacker's scheme plays out. Dozens of fraudulent transfers get through. Only a bit of luck and last-minute scrutiny prevent complete catastrophe. One transfer request raises eyebrows because of a simple typo, halting a 20 million transaction, and a few other fraudulent attempts are blocked. Still, By the time the plot is uncovered, 81 million has already disappeared from Bangladesh's account. Successfully stolen, the money wins its way through casinos and accounts in the Philippines before going cold. A massive sum, taken from one of the world's poorest nations, is simply gone. The investigation that follows unfolds like a global whodunit. Officials from Bangladesh and the US work together and soon find traces of Lazarus Group in the code and methods used. The hack scale and boldness point to a state-sponsored operation, a bank robbery carried out by a government. Forensic analysts later link the crime back to North Korea's hackers, making it one of the most brazen cyber heists ever attributed to a nation-state. This Bangladesh bank heist marks a strategic turning point. North Korea realized that hacking could directly finance the regime. After all, stealing our 81 million beats, printing counterfeit money, or engaging in illicit arms deals. The success in Bangladesh encouraged Pyongyang. Over the next few years, cyber units tied to North Korea, often labeled APT-38 when it comes to financial attacks, targeted banks in Vietnam, Taiwan, India, Mexico, and beyond. They took advantage of the global banking system's interconnectedness to steal tens of millions at a time. Each attempt highlighted the growing skill of these hackers in maneuvering through financial networks. So how do North Korean hackers pull off these feats? Their operations follow a certain playbook, a mix of clever social engineering and advanced coding. It often starts with a misleading email. A banker or employee at a targeted organization might receive something that looks like a routine message. Perhaps a job application, an invoice, or an urgent security alert. Concealed inside is a malicious link or attachment. One careless click, and the hackers quietly gain entry. This approach, known as spear phishing, is their preferred way in. Once inside a network, the intruders move carefully. They might spend days or even weeks exploring the system, raising their privileges, and locating the sensitive keys to the kingdom. In a bank, that could be the servers managing money transfers. In a movie studio, it's the file servers holding emails and film cuts. The hackers install custom malware, essentially spy programs, to stay in touch with their controllers and even wipe data if necessary. Other times, they set up hidden backdoors to ensure they can return even if part of their malware is detected and removed. When it comes to stealing data or money, they cover their tracks meticulously. Stolen files are encrypted and transmitted in small pieces to external servers to avoid notice. Stolen money, particularly cryptocurrency, is laundered through a maze of accounts. For instance, after breaking into a cryptocurrency exchange, the hackers might split the haul into thousands of tiny transactions, bouncing them through various digital wallets and mixers, services that hide where the funds came from. By the end, it's extremely hard for investigators to trace the money. As North Koreans, they essentially wash it through cyberspace and then turn it into cash or goods for the regime. Each attack is like a covert mission, and like any good spies, the hackers communicate through encrypted channels and route their connections across multiple countries to hide their origin. They mainly operate from North Korea and some bases in China, but they'll channel their internet traffic through hacked servers on other continents. So a bank in Bangladesh might think the thief is in Vietnam or Europe, until the trail is painstakingly followed back to Pyongyang. Even with their efforts to conceal who they are, the group's activities have developed a recognizable signature. Cyber analysts notice similarities in malicious code and quirks in how files are named. Over time, these clues have enabled experts to link many seemingly separate cyber incidents to the same North Korean actors. The real-world consequences of North Korea's cyber campaigns have been far-reaching. In the Sony hack, a corporation suffered tens of millions in financial losses, and creative expression was stifled. An entire industry woke up to the reality that a dictator's disapproval could become a digital sword hanging over free speech. The bank heists set off alarms in the financial world. Banks everywhere rushed to strengthen their security and question how a national central bank could be left so exposed. Bangladesh Bank's governor resigned amid the fallout. The incident forced changes in how banks handle SWs and IFT transfers and encouraged greater international cooperation to protect financial networks. The 2017 WannaCry ransomware attack escalated things even further. In May of that year, computers across more than 150 countries were suddenly locked by malware displaying a message. "Oops, your files have been encrypted." Hospitals in the UK, shipping companies, railway systems, universities. The worm spread indiscriminately, infecting over 300,000 machines. It was eventually connected to North Korea, making it effectively a reckless cyber weapon that paralyzed hospital operations and businesses worldwide. WannaCry caused massive financial damage and revealed just how vulnerable critical infrastructure was. Lives were even put at risk when surgeries had to be canceled because hospital computers were down. Then there are the cryptocurrency thefts, which have quietly funneled enormous sums to Pyongyang. In one case, more than $500 million vanished from a Japanese cryptocurrency exchange overnight. In another, around $600 million was taken from an online gaming crypto network. These heists, often overshadowed by larger geopolitical stories, have real impact. Experts believe that a significant chunk of North Korea's missile program funding now comes from stolen cryptocurrency. In other words, when North Korean hackers steal digital coins, they might be financing the country's next ballistic missile. All of these actions have sparked a kind of worldwide manhunt. Cybersecurity agencies, law enforcement, and private companies are teaming up like never before to prevent these attacks and hold those responsible accountable. The U.S. Department of Justice has indicted North Korean hackers, publicly naming members of Lazarus Group in an effort to bring them to justice. Governments have imposed sanctions on entities and individuals tied to Lazarus Group, trying to freeze whatever assets or travel options they have outside North Korea. Cryptocurrency exchanges and banks have been urged to tighten monitoring so that stolen funds can be flagged or seized. Still, the core members of this hacker unit remain safely out of reach, protected within North Korea's borders. Indictments and sanctions, while sending a message, haven't stopped the attacks. If anything, Pyongyang's hackers have become more daring, likely because cyber operations have turned into a financial lifeline for the regime and a crucial part of its statecraft. As we look to the future, North Korea's hacker army forces us to confront an unsettling truth. The nature of warfare and crime has transformed. A country that struggles to keep its lights on can plunge someone else's into darkness. A nation with a tiny economy can steal millions from the world's largest banks. And a regime that might lose a conventional battle can still cause widespread chaos across the globe. All through the internet, this reality hasn't gone unnoticed by other nations. Today, dozens of countries have cyber units, and global rivalries are expanding into the digital domain. What North Korea has done serves as a dramatic example of a broader trend. Cyber warfare is the new great equalizer, allowing smaller players to hit far above their weight. The prospect of a cyber arms race raises tough questions. How do we defend against attacks that can come at the speed of light, with no warning from unseen perpetrators? What even counts as an act of war in cyberspace? Is it stealing money? Stealing secrets? Shutting down a power grid? There are no clear rules yet. In Pyongyang, though, cyber operations are celebrated internally. The hackers are heroes to the regime. Picture a young programmer in a windowless room, writing code that will unleash chaos in distant places. No one outside will ever know his name or see his face. But his keystrokes can shake nations. It's a form of power that seemed like science fiction just a few decades ago. As this story of North Korea's elite hacker unit draws to a close, we're left with a blend of awe and unease. Awe at the ingenuity and audacity with which these hackers carry out their missions. The world has entered a new kind of Cold War, fought with code. And as the hackers of Pyongyang have shown, you don't need to be a superpower to be a super threat in this realm. The shadowy figures behind keyboards in North Korea have already rewritten the rules. The question that lingers is, are we ready for what comes next?